Sonnet 5 costs about 40% less than Opus 4.8 for the same work. One is Anthropic's cheap, fast default model, and the other is the flagship you pay extra for when a task has to be right. Pick wrong and you're either burning budget every month or trusting the cheap model with work it can't actually finish. Cost, coding benchmarks, speed, context and output limits, and deployment, 5 tests, scored one at a time. They land on a single number by the end, and that number decides which one you should actually be defaulting to. Test 1 is cost per token. It's the number that decides whether a habit is quietly costing you money every single month. Claude Sonnet 5 runs at $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output tokens. Opus 4.8 sits at $5 and $25 for that same split. Through the end of August 2026, Sonnet 5 is even cheaper, at an introductory $2 and $10. That means the standard rate gap of about 40% widens to something closer to 60% during that window. That's not the full picture, though. Sonnet 5 shipped with a new tokenizer that turns the same piece of text into roughly 30% more tokens than it used to take. A prompt that cost a certain amount on the older Sonnet model now costs more in real dollars, even though the price per token never moved. Anthropic's own documentation says this plainly. Drop a comment if that cost gap has actually shown up on your own bill. For anyone running these models at real volume, it usually has. That makes Sonnet 5 the winner of Test 1. But a lower price tag means nothing if the cheaper model can't actually do the job. It puts the running scoreboard at 1-0 in its favor. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Test 2 is coding and reasoning benchmarks. This is where defaulting to the lower price can genuinely bite you on a task that actually matters. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. On SWBench Pro, a vendor-reported agentic coding benchmark, Opus 4.8 scores 69.2% against Sonnet 5's 63.2%, a real 6-point gap. The Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index is an independent benchmark suite that Anthropic supported ahead of release. It backs that up in the same direction, putting Opus 4.8 at 56 against Sonnet 5's 53. Two separate measurement methods pointing the same way is worth more than either number alone. The gap closes almost completely on the tests that lean toward knowledge work. Humanity's last exam with tools sits at 57.9% for Opus 4.8 against 57.4% for Sonnet 5. And on the GDP Val AA V2 benchmark, Sonnet 5 actually edges ahead, 1,618 to 1,615. Opus 4.8 takes Test 2 on the strength of the cross-verified gap. That ties the scoreboard at 1 apiece heading into the next test. Test 3 is speed. Intelligence doesn't help much if the answer takes forever to show up on screen. Using artificial analysis's independent numbers, both models measured on Anthropic's own API at max effort. Sonnet 5 generates output at 73.4 tokens per second, while Opus 4.8 comes in at 57.5. That's roughly 28% faster, and Opus 4.8's number actually sits below the 72.2 tokens per second median for reasoning models in its price range. Anthropic clearly knows this is a weak spot. Opus 4.8 offers a fast mode that claims up to 2.5 times the base speed, at a premium price of $10 and $50 per million tokens. That's a vendor-claimed multiplier, not an independently measured number, so treat it as directional rather than confirmed. Sonnet 5 wins Test 3 cleanly, but raw speed doesn't count for much if a model runs out of room halfway through the job. The scoreboard moves to 2-1 in its favor. Stick with me, because the last 4 tests are where this decision actually flips. Test 4 is context window and output limits. Assuming the price your model must hold more room can waste real engineering time, solving a problem that doesn't exist. Both models carry a 1 million token context window as their default and their maximum, with no smaller version available. Both also cap output at 128,000 tokens, and Anthropic's own platform, Docs, and AWS's Bedrock model card confirm the same numbers for each model. The one wrinkle worth knowing is that Sonnet 5's tokenizer packs more tokens into the same text. That means the million token window holds less actual content than the same number did before. After 3 decisive tests back to back, this one's an honest tie. That still leaves one place a model could quietly be missing from your stack entirely. Opus 4.8 also gets capped at 200,000 tokens on Microsoft Foundry specifically, though that's a platform restriction, not anything about the model itself. The scoreboard holds at 2-1 Sonnet 5 with one tie on the board. Test 5 is deployment and modality. The risk here is assuming only the flagship model made it onto your cloud of choice, when it probably didn't. Both models run on the same 4 platforms: the Claude API, Amazon Bedrock, Google Vertex AI, and Microsoft Foundry. Both also support zero data retention for organizations with the right enterprise agreements. Both take text and images as input and only produce text as output, and neither one generates images, audio, or video natively. The one genuine difference is positioning, not capability. Sonnet 5 is the default model baked into the free and pro-consumer Claude apps. Opus 4.8 is the model people deliberately switch to when a task demands it. That's a single source, though, not a confirmed pattern. One independent review from RoboFlow calls Sonnet 5 a lateral move on vision specifically, tying its predecessor on accuracy, but slipping on document understanding. Test 5 is another tie, which locks the final scoreboard at 2-1 for Sonnet 5, with 2 ties along the way. Sonnet 5 won outright on cost per token and on speed. It tied, rather than lost, on both context limits and deployment. That means defaulting to it costs you nothing on 3 of the 5 tests, and it saves you real money and time on the other 2. Opus 4.8 won exactly 1 test, coding and reasoning benchmarks. But it won that one clean, with 2 independent measurement methods agreeing on the direction of the gap. That's the entire picture. A cheaper, faster model ties almost everywhere it doesn't win outright, going up against a pricier model that earns its premium on the hardest reasoning and coding work specifically. If you're running high-volume agentic loops, batch jobs, or anything where a slow response actually costs you users, pick Sonnet 5. The cost and speed advantages compound every time you make another call. If you're working the hardest end of coding or dense reasoning, the kind of task where a wrong answer is expensive to catch later, pick Opus 4.8. That's the one test in this whole comparison where the gap is real and backed by more than one source. The overall default, though, is Sonnet 5. The reason is simple: it wins or ties 4 of the 5 tests run here. The one test it loses is a gap that most everyday work never gets close enough to actually feel. One thing the docs don't spell out on the pricing page itself is exactly how much that tokenizer swap from test 1 actually costs you in real dollars. That 30% jump in token count lives buried in a migration guide, nowhere near the price list. It means a typical prompt on Sonnet 5 can run more expensive than the per token sticker price implies. Before you assume the savings from test 1 carry over exactly to your own workload, run your own prompts through a token counter first. That's the final scoreboard. Sonnet 5 takes the default, and Opus 4.8 stays reserved for the hardest jobs. But Opus 4.8 already has a successor, Opus 5, sitting at the exact same price. That raises a different question entirely, whether Sonnet 5 is still the right default once Opus 5 is the one it's actually competing against. That's the comparison worth watching next.